This is Michael Hadley in course DPA 740, week 4, and we're going to talk about the quotation that's provided in the prompt that says, in collaborative context, the relational and perceptual aspects of power may be as important as the objective ability to command resources. I'm going to first talk about this statement in the context of the research article, and then I'm going to look at it through the lens of the pillar of accountability. Jumping right into it, according to Jill M. Purdy, there's 3 sources of power that are particularly useful for understanding interorganizational dynamics. These include authority, resources, and discursive legitimacy. When it relates back to the quote that was talked about in the original prompt, being, that relational and perceptual aspects of power are just as important as objective ability to command resources, the relational and perceptual aspects of power falls into the discursive legitimacy category because, according to Purdy, an organization with discursive legitimacy draws its power from the status of the values or logic it represents. This falls into discursive legitimacy because, and moreover, the relational and perceptual aspects of power, because when you have somebody that has the perceived status of having value or representing the voice of the issue or the people who are going to benefit or be hurt by whatever collaborative effort you're undertaking, that holds a lot of weight in the conversation when it comes to all the different players at the table. What's interesting is I like about the article that was given was that there was an example of within the FERC story, within the study about how FERC undertook a big rulemaking process to talk about how the hydropower needs to be revisited and how those processes need to be made more efficient and effective. And they brought Native American tribes to the table because even though they didn't have the technical expertise that they were looking for, but they provided a voice to the cause, and an important voice that commands a lot of respect and a lot of moral power within the conversation, and brought a lot of aspects to it that people didn't apparently think about from a more, even if it was more from a holistic perspective. To have those players at the table were incredibly powerful and important, and when going through the process of this rulemaking, it added a lot of legitimacy to the entire process. Making the statement that having relational power is as important as the objective ability to command resources is interesting because without someone at the table who has resource power or the ability to have a bunch of resources at their command, whether it's people or financial, or without having someone with legitimate authority at the table, someone who can actually implement whatever we're talking about, you can't really have those things be effective without having the discursive legitimacy power at the table. If you don't, it may seem like the people who have resources who are at the table are only there for financial gain, or it could make it seem like it's biased, or that they're not talking to all voices of the table, including those who would be most affected by it. So it could completely derail the collaborative process from the very beginning if you don't have that voice at the table, that sense of power at the table. And it also creates some trust with the public or audience who's going to benefit from this, making sure that their voice is being heard at the table. Finally, relating this back to the public administrative power pillar of accountability, this goes back, accountability is more referencing the process of being transparent and inclusive of all voices at the table, which again plays back into this idea of discursive legitimacy power, having all voices represented at the table, making sure that authority is kept in check, and that all the morals and values are being upheld throughout the entire process, and that we have this kind of whistleblower or kind of this overarching voice that may not have the authority to derail a project or have the ability to finance an entire project, but they're there to make sure the collaborative effort is staying on track, on process, and that all the goals are really being met for those who are going to benefit.